Happy New Year, everyone. Happy 2024. We're going to go into this the right way, at least emotional. And I've learned a lot about myself over the last year, which was the hardest, most painful, worst year in my lifetime, with the loss of my granddaughter, which I've spoken about quite a bit on social media, and many people watching this video know about this tragic loss. It was hard, it was brutal, and one of those things where you don't really truly know your strength until you go through something like this. But more than that, you really truly don't know how much you need others through something like this. You really do. In the moment, you like, I'm fine. But there's no possible way to get through something like that without the support, love, and prayers from others. You just can't do this on your own. It's impossible. So I'm going to go backwards, and I'm going to talk about myself a little bit and the things that I discovered about myself to be able to be one of those people, to be there for others. And in order to be there for others, you got to really do a lot of self-reflecting, and you got to really look at yourself. That's why Matthew 7 is my favorite, one of my favorite verses, go-to verses, and that's take the plank out of your own eye before taking the plank out of your brother's. I love it because it's not talking about what they need to do. It's talking about what I need to do. I need to work on me. And there was a lot of things that I needed to work on. And there was a lot of things that I needed to discover about myself. And the number one thing that I needed to figure out is, I'm a very passionate person. There's a lot of knowledge that I have because I've gone through so much, experiences and testimonies of my own. So when I go to share with people, I tend to be in their faces. And it's not because it's Tina's Way or the Highway, although that's one of the triggers for me. Only a couple people have said that to me, which was like, that's not me. Definitely not me. But I can be misinterpreted in the wrong way because my passion is a little too over in your face, too much, over the top. So I had to learn, number one, to pull it back a little bit, reel it in a little bit. And, that's why I share these videos. It's like, I'm going to share my testimony. I'm going to share all the things that I've gone through, my not so perfect me at all. I don't have a perfect life. Anybody says they do, they don't, right? I want to talk about my imperfections and be very real and raw about who I am. Because if I hide that, then I'm just sharing, really not the real anything. So that's why I make these videos. So, Holly, this one's for you. A year before shutdown, I had a powwow. I like to call them powwows, not arguments, with a very dear friend of mine, Holly. And during that powwow, I learned something. After I got back home, I really was speaking to God, going, tell me what that's all about. Tell me why I had this powwow with my very dear friend. And he talked to me loud and clear. Okay, at that day, I came home. It was a Saturday morning. It was pouring down rain. I took all my Bible studies and I put it all on the couch right behind me. Spread it all on the couch. And I had a pen and a pad. And I was waiting for words to pop up. I'm like, Jesus, speak to me now. What do I need to work on? And words were popping up, and I was writing them down on the paper and pad. I didn't know what the words meant at the time, but I was just writing words. Then when I put all of the stuff together, there was one word in particular that just popped out of nowhere. I mean, it just popped out, and the word was empathy. Well, first of all, I'm thinking, why would that word pop up? Because if anybody around, I have empathy. I am an empathetic person. Well, I researched a little bit more, and lo and behold, I found something very special about the word empathy. I was lacking empathy. Yeah, I was lacking. That's because there are 3 components to empathy. And if you don't have all three components, you're not an empathetic person. So I've got something here to read to you. And I want to ask yourself, do you have empathy? Are you an empathetic person? Okay, let's find out. All right, put my glasses on because, you know, I'm over 50, approaching 60, and my eyeballs don't work so well. I know, right? Oh, I can see. All right, so here you go. What is empathy? Learn about 3 types of empathy. It's late on a Friday night and you're relaxing after a hectic week, reading your favorite book when your phone rings. It's a close friend calling you in a panic because she just lost her job. Don't worry, you'll find another soon, you say. Besides, you knew your company was having financial problems. Didn't you expect this? Why are you so upset now? There's a stunned silence on the other end of the line, followed by a dropped call. You did not show empathy. You thought you were trying to comfort her. So what went wrong? Without first empathizing with her and listening to her concerns, you might have done more harm than good. So what is empathy? It's the ability to understand another person's thoughts and feelings in a situation from their point of view rather than your own. Huge, everyone, huge. It differs from sympathy, where one is moved by the thoughts and feelings of another but maintains an emotional distance. Okay, here we go. Sympathy is to see someone in a deep hole but remaining on higher ground and talking to them from above. The sympathetic person may also try to simply put a silver lining on the other person's situation instead of acknowledging the person's pain. Conversely, empathy is feeling with the person. It's climbing down the hole to sit beside them, making yourself vulnerable, keyword, vulnerable, to sincerely connecting with them. The empathetic person will recognize, I'm keying these words, recognize the person's struggle without minimizing it. Empathy is an enormous concept, okay? And then it says, you will briefly learn how to empathize with your friends, coworkers, and those around you by using these 3 types of empathy. You will build stronger relationships and trust. Cognitive, simply knowing how the other person feels and what they might be thinking, sometimes called perspective talking. If you imagine yourself in your friend's shoes, you know she was likely to be feeling sad as well as anxious because she relies on that income to pay her student loans. However, having only cognitive empathy keeps you at a distance from your friend. To truly connect with your friend, you need to share their feelings. This is where emotional empathy comes in. Emotional, when you feel physically along with the other person as their emotions were contagious. This type of empathy can also extend to physical sensations, which is why we cringe when someone else stubs their toe. In this case, you would look inward to identify a situation where you would similarly anxious about the future. The situation itself need not to be identical, as each individual is different. What's important is that the emotions resulting from the situations are the same. So you've successfully understood what your friend is feeling and you put yourself in a similar emotional space. Now what? Well, you can use the insights gleaned from cognitive and emotional empathy to have compassionate empathy. Compassionate. With this kind of empathy, we are not only understanding a person's predicament and feel with them, but we are spontaneously moved to help if needed. It is the balance between cognitive and emotional empathy that enables us to act without being overcome with feeling or jumping straight into a problem-solving process. Nobody likes that, right? I used to do that. Guilty. Okay, putting it all together. Empathy doesn't just happen naturally for a lot of people. Our fast-paced society does not often encourage us to take a moment to connect with others. It is therefore a conscious choice we have to make. But the more we practice empathy, empathy, the more intuitive it becomes. All right, there you go. All right, do you have empathy? It is a gift, guys. And again, the world is lacking empathy. It is so important to me to make sure that I have empathy for the person. I have it nailed now. By the way, when Holly and I had our little powwow, the one I was missing was cognitive. I had the other two, but I was missing cognitive. That means I needed to be able to put my shoes on Holly's feet. But if Holly didn't put her shoes on my feet, I need to be okay with that. That's why we have powwows. Because when you think about a powwow, it's not because I'm right and you're wrong. It's because I want to be heard. I want to be heard. So if you take a moment to just listen to that person and not agree, okay, you don't have to agree with it. That's why there's one saying, and I do not like this saying. So please, if you say this to people, stop saying it, because there's zero empathy in this statement. Have you ever heard, let's agree to disagree? I don't like that. There is zero empathy in that statement, because if you say that to me, what I hear in there is you don't really care how I feel. Okay, and again, the one thing I've been told is, Tina, it's your way or the highway. I am the last person. But if you take the time to hear Tina, you won't see a defensive Tina. I won't be defensive, okay? So if we have more empathy for each other, you will never see that other person getting defensive. You don't need to agree with them. This is not about agreeing with them. It's about listening to them, hearing them. And that's in James. Someone quote me, is it 1:5 or is James? It's in James, quick to listen, slow to speak. That's what that means, okay? So if you are saying to another person, you need to do this and you shouldn't do this, well, what you're really doing is doing exactly what you're blaming them for. You're not a good listener, okay? And so I don't want to be that person. That's why I work very hard on myself to not be that person. So let's go into 2024 with one gift to give to each other, the gift of empathy. Happy, blessed 2024 with empathy.